tonight's regular Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, January 27th, 2021. Ordered in the auditorium, adjusted virtually or remotely. We start with a roll call, please, Stanley.
Lindsay Daylight. Here. Scott Ashback.
Here.
Ron Lee.
Here.
Kendra Osmond. Here. Jeremy Radler. John Smith.
Here.
Maria Volk. Here. Brett Waller.
Here.
Kevin Blake.
Here. This time, rise, face the flag if you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome to the Merrill Area Public Schools Board of Education meeting. Perhaps respects to the role our elected board members serve in the function of our board meetings. Board members and administrators are committed to working collaboratively to provide our students a safe learning environment and the highest level of achievement. This meeting is a formal event and professional conduct is the expectation for all in attendance. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sample. Next on our agenda this evening is public receiving emails or virtual. We do have one person in the audience. We just got our statement that we appreciate the participation in the school board meeting this evening. Public comment period is an important time for the board to hear the concerns of its constituents. Nonetheless, rather than making a statement for the public comment period, we wish to consider whether the content of your speech will be harmful to an individual person, and if so, whether that person could have a legal claim against you related to the statement you made this evening. Been advised, you have been advised, Wisconsin Supreme Court has specifically ruled there's no absolute privilege to protect defamatory comments by speakers at board meetings such as this. Therefore, please be aware that the speaker bears the personal risk of anything he or she says during the public comment period of the school board meeting is defamatory, slanderous, or otherwise harmful to another individual. Thank you. That would be wonderful. Come forward and hand that to Tammy or myself. In the meantime, I'm going to call
Yeah,
up.
you can't, you're not, the mic, there's a dial, it's too far away.
Guys, how are we doing on the microphone? Is that better? Let's test that again.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Without further ado, we will, now that I see board member Ratliff is also signed in, public comment, we'll start with Greg Matlin, Director of Business for Organic Life, talking about K-12 food service. Greg, if you come up to one of the microphones, either standing in front of you or at the table, whichever one is more comfortable for you. Sure.
Hi everybody, my name is Greg Matlin and I work with a company called Organic Life and we do K-12 food service. I had met with Brian about 3 weeks ago just to kind of give him an overview of our program, so I know there's some decisions that he's going to be making in regards to the future. But I grew up in Stevens Point and live in Madison. The company that I work for, we're headquartered out of Illinois, and we've had a lot of growth over the last 15 years. And really the message I sent Brian was just that if there's interest within the district or different things in regard to choices or open to change, I'm happy to be a resource, and sometimes we do come in and do food samples or different things along those lines. And we had a booth last week at the virtual conference, so I'm not sure if any of you guys had attended the WASBO event, but it was a lot of fun. I did a lot of breakout sessions, got to meet a lot of people. And Brian's got my email address, so obviously he's kind of heading up the show, and I just wanted to more or less show my support, and if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me or Brian. Does anybody have any questions?
Clarifying questions?
Are you a member, Mr. Terry, are you a resident of the Merrill School District?
I am not a resident of the Merrill School District. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Next, I will call to the front Christine Borboggle.
And I'm Christine Borboggle. I am a member of the Merrill. I live on Pine River. That's of pertinent nature. Mine is talking more on a general nature of the perception. You've worked very hard for MAPS to have a good, positive relationship with the business community, which I have a small business, a marketing business, but I work, that means I'm in a lot of people's offices and behind the scenes of events. And you've had a very good relationship. And I've lived long enough. I've been through some bad ones where superintendents resigned and things happened along the way. And I hate to see us going down this path. And I caution you on negativity. I don't think, and I don't know much about the whole Maple Grove scenario, but when somebody has to take out a full-page ad, which I happen to know how much those cost in the photo news to get people's attention, feeling there's so much adversarial relationship with a charter school, that concerned me. And then now this whole way, the principal at Washington School, Tricia, excuse me, can't think of her last name. I'm thinking of her maiden name, and whatever. It just feels like either you're not doing a good enough job at PR. I've been on the website, because that's, you call and somebody tells you, oh, it's on the website. Did you ever try to show up at the maintenance, the building committee meeting? Or find out when some of the other meetings are? It's not an easy thing to find. Now, maybe it's just me, technologically challenged. I'm of the generation that I have to use it, that don't mean I like it. Which is why I came tonight. I just am cautioning you that there is a perception of an adversarial relationship starting to between the parents, students, and I know about a little bit about the school redistricting and closing of Jefferson and moving of the administration there. I've tried to now catch up quick. I haven't been on top of it, but it doesn't feel like you're doing a good enough job of explaining why these changes are happening. So I just am cautioning you to be sure you're putting your best foot forward to inform the MAPS community.
Thank you, Christine. Any clarifying questions from any board members? It was pretty self-explanatory. All right, thank you for your time. Next on our agenda this evening is our board recognition. We'd like to start off recognizing the Reading Buddies program for the dedication and supporting literacy at Pine River School for Young Learners. On December 10th, Kent and Sue Johnson delivered the final batch of mittens from our wonderful Reading Buddies knitting crew made for the students at Pine River School for Young Learners. After 24 years of providing both the mittens as well as books, we find it appropriate for this community organization to be recognized. For 23 years, the Reading Buddies team have been coming to read books and do an activity with students at Frizzle and Parkside Preschool. During the spring of 2019, COVID brought these visits to a stop a little earlier than planned. This school year, the students are still being read the books by their classroom teachers and sent home with them. However, after this year, this wonderful team of Reading Buddies will no longer be able to continue. The MAPS District has the greatest appreciation for all the volunteers and especially the chairpersons, Sue Johnson and Joni Hahn, for sustaining it for so many years. The impact each of these volunteers has had for the love of reading for our students is immeasurable. We also would like to give special appreciation to the mitten knitters. Each year, that pair of carefully knitted mittens is gifted to each child from this gracious and good-hearted group: Shirley Pfister, Sharon White, and Judy Greenby. I believe on behalf of some of our recognize members. I believe Jill Seaman has a statement to be read since they were unable to attend this evening. Go ahead, Jill.
Thank you, Kevin. Sue and Ken Johnson would like you to know the following. We asked me to read this for you. The Reading Buddies program has been a joy to help coordinate. We are thankful that we have been able to support local children by advancing their chances of attaining higher reading proficiency via the books purchased and distributed by Reading Buddies during their preschool years. Reading Buddies has helped build home libraries throughout Lincoln County for the last 23 years. We are grateful to all the individuals and organizations who have supported this program through monetary contributions, knitting mittens for the children, or volunteering their time to read to the children we serve. COVID-19, of course, ended the volunteer portion of our program. However, we are thrilled to still support our schools with free, age-appropriate books. This school year, over 200 Lincoln County's preschoolers will receive 12 books for their home libraries. In total, 2,520 free books will be sent home via the schools we serve. We would like to thank the Frizzle staff for so highly valuing our program, and especially thank them for taking the time to help us make book purchases. We look forward to continuing to promote the joy of reading into the 2021-2022 school year, ensuring every child in our program has the opportunity to build their own home library. With our appreciation, Sue and Ken Johnson for the Reading Buddies program.
Thank you, Jill. And thanks again to all the Reading Buddies program members and our knitting knitters. We could have a round of applause for them. Thank you. Next, the board would like to recognize this evening Mike and Jean Robin. During this pandemic, many families had very limited funds for the purchase of Christmas gifts. The Sawmill spearheaded a community project that would raise funds to get the children with pajamas, a book, blanket, and a toothbrushing kit. Other generous organizations helped as well. These two have helped to organize, wrap, and distribute the donations to the Oh Cozy Night project. The basement became Santa's workshop for about a month. Both Mike and Jean have been involved in many local organizations that address the challenges in our community. They are very deserving of this recognition. Final tally of the packages was about 200. This means 200 children in the MAPS district have the opportunity to have a wonderful bedtime routine. Mike and Jean, if you're here, if you could come up for a photo and be presented with your certificates. Come up here, so everyone. On behalf of the MAPS board, thank you guys very much. I would love it if you would.
It's hard for me not to. I'd just like to thank my daughter Tricia, who came up with that original idea for Oh Cozy Nights. And I'd like to thank my other daughters who all contributed to putting this together. Jean and I are retired, so we have time. I learned another skill set. I know how to tie little tiny Christmas ribbons on 200 packages. I've got skins left off my fingers trying to tie little ribbons, but if you need Christmas packages wrapped in the future, I can do it. I'd also like to extend a thank you to Jill Seaman, She was an organizer, put together the program for the 4K schools across your district and made it easy. But I think I'd like to finish with kind of the motto behind this idea that we had is that a good night leads to a good day for our small children in our school district. So thank you very much, Kevin, and the board for recognizing us.
Thanks, Jim. Last but certainly not least, the board tonight would like to recognize Maylin Chen for her incredible mask donations. She has made over 160 masks for staff and students out at Maple Grove. These high-quality masks are tailored to fit the youngest of faces to our adults, the snug fit that prevents the gaps. Having remained open since September 1st, Maple Grove says they're grateful to have a regular supply of high-quality masks available to keep their building safe. Unfortunately, she was unable to attend in person or virtually this evening, so I will make sure that Dawn can present her with this recognition from the board. If we could take a moment for a round of applause to Maylin Chen. Thank you to everyone recognized this evening. This time I would like to introduce our Student Board of Education representatives. They could make their way up to the microphone, Levi Black and Amelia Scovera. They will update us on the high school activities.
Winter sports are drawing to a close and many will end at the end of this month. This year, especially for indoor winter sports, it looked much different. Each athlete only got 2 tickets, which are virtual to cut down on the contact, and everyone, including athletes, officials, and fans, must wear masks. With these restrictions in place, going to a game looks much different and is much quieter. There's also a different look to spring sports. Because of alternate fall sports seasons that are taking place in March and April, the spring sports season has been pushed back to late April and May. Musical practice has begun this week for their upcoming production, Little Shop of Horrors. This year, the show will look much different though. Right now, they are considering a radio show production, a recorded video, or a social distance friends and family show. Whatever option they choose, they will make sure that it's virtual and COVID friendly. And the ACT this year for the junior class is March 9th. As the state class approaches, the plan is to open up after-school study sessions and have a full junior class practice ACT on February 9th to prepare.
So we are now in the middle of our scholarship season for the seniors. And there was a parent and student meeting for local scholarships on the 20th of January. They were learning about the process of applying for these scholarships. They received a packet of all the different local scholarships that they can apply for. And Merrill is known for its extremely generous and good scholarship program. And the process for students has become very intuitive. So it's now the start of a new semester at Merrill High School, and we're now over halfway done with the school year, which seems like some sort of fast. But with the semester change, many students have also started new classes and look forward to some of the events in the last half of our year. And while things like prom, senior awards night, and graduation, some of the specifics are still up in the air, we're all very optimistic and confident that we can have a really good second half of our year. And something you may notice about this new semester is that all of the Merrill area schools are open. And this is something that many, many students are very happy about. And many more have been doing in-person instruction, something the high school has shown can be done well and safely. And while hybrid has worked very well, in-person learning has shown to be the very best way for a student to learn. And so many students are happy to connect with their teachers and learn, and this has been helping them to succeed in the second semester.
Thank you for the update. Before you go back to your seats, I'll ask if any board members have any questions for our board representatives. All right. Thank you very much, Amelia and Levi. This time on our agenda, the administrative reports by Dr. Sample.
Thanks, Kevin. Our first administrative report comes to us from Glenda Oginski, Director of Curriculum Instruction Report. She included the presentation that was shown at the CTP committee level meeting, talking about the Wisconsin School Report Card, which will be changing in the future, but of course we had no data on the school report card for last year. We know we've had some work to do with achievement and working real hard to get our student achievement up despite COVID. Any questions for myself or Glenda regarding her Director of Instruction report?
What point is the next testing round? How is it? Obviously, we don't have any data, but when will it, right? Go ahead, Linda.
For benchmark assessments then?
Are you talking about state assessments?
Yeah, so the same type of data format. When will it be?
Yeah, we will be participating at this point in time. They told us that regardless that they're expecting everybody to participate in all assessments. We won't be having waivers like we did last year. So we will get results in the fall of next year.
Okay, so we'll have fall results, but we're taking the test now? Is that what you're?
In the spring, yes, we'll take them in the spring. Yes, but we still have our winter benchmarks. And then the spring benchmarks, the fast bridge assessments.
If they're local assessments.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. The next report comes to us from Jill Seaman, Director of Pine River School for Young Learners. She's included her monthly data, including health screening requirements, status, and the meals data. Any questions for myself or Jill regarding her Pine River School for Young Learners report? Karen Baker, Director of Special Ed Pupil Services, has attached information regarding Northern Achievement Center, or NAC. She likes to update the board regularly on NAC because there seems to be questions regarding which students can attend there, and that is a tuition-based, for anybody outside the district, they pay, in essence, tuition to help offset our costs, and the rest of the funding is through the flow-through dollars that the parent receives through special education. She also provided some of the ratios of the students. It's a lower ratio. There's more staff members for students due to the nature of their disabilities. Any questions for myself or Karen on the information from Northern Achievement Center? Karen also provided the second Friday in January enrollment that will be subject to change over the next couple of months and become finalized, but this is the second Friday in January enrollment numbers as they appear today. Any questions regarding enrollment numbers? Brian Dasher has provided the next two reports, the monthly budget update, as well as the food participation update, which you see monthly. Any questions for myself or Brian regarding either of these reports? Eddie Ned, Director of Human Resources, has provided his updates. Employee Benefits Group, Staffing Plan Development, Liquidated Damages Collection, Exit Email Notification, and HR Department Staffing Update. Any questions for myself or Eddie regarding his HR report? Kesha has provided a summary for Director of Technology Integration report that spans from September through January on a variety of topics. Are there any questions of any topic of Kesha or myself for her report? And finally, the superintendent's report. Reported my activities and meetings since our last board meeting. Administrative rounding. The administrative evaluation progress with the mid-cycle evaluation reviews. I have, by the February board meeting, I should have the mid-cycle review process finished for mid-year evaluations on all administrators. My building visibility was purposely low this time in hopes that we can remain open, really. But per our administrative leadership team meeting yesterday, I received a number of invitations for building professional learning community meetings, and so I will be in the buildings and be able to report out in February the progress that Linda and I have made as we sit in on professional learning community meetings. You can see our alt meeting agenda and notes, as well as our central office administrator meeting agendas. And then finally, the weekly bulletins are provided for you as they go to the staff each and every week. Any questions on anything related to my report? Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Dr. Sample. Next on our agenda this evening is an update from our committee reports. The first committee would be the Finance HR Committee. Provided the draft minutes for January 6th meeting. The committee chair, John Smith, and the rest of the committee are available for questions. Any board members have any questions for the Finance and HR Committee this evening? Hearing none, the next committee report was from the Facilities Committee. Also from a January 6th committee meeting, myself as chair and other members of the committee are available for questions. Do any board members have any questions from the minutes of January 6th Facilities Committee meeting?
They have a question, but I was looking over the Finance Committee meeting minutes, and then I was looking over ours because our meeting takes place prior to theirs. But in the Finance Committee meeting, it looks like they're waiting steps to be taken on our end for facilities. So I guess my question is, should we be meeting before March? If they're going to be making a decision that we're just potentially making, I guess Jefferson agreed is, they about repurposing of Jefferson expenses until facility committee takes actionable steps. So they're waiting for facilities to make a decision. So if we're not meeting until March, are we going to be holding up that decision for finance?
That's a good question, and I will look into that with Dr. Sample. And I know we have reviewed the timeline. We'll go through that shortly with any progress there. I did mention at the Finance HR committee level that we should talk about, and at CTP, making sure that we're co-dependent on other committees for the full board meeting that we're staying in front of that. So I did challenge Dr. Sample to make sure he was working with the administrative staff that we were staying ahead of that. And if we do need an additional facilities committee, we'll make sure everyone has enough time to be invited properly, and I'll work with Dr. Sample and Neil Bergman to do that.
I mean, that works. I was just asking because we meet before them, and for their minutes, they're waiting for us to address some concerns. And so, we want to let them know that the process is in wait till March.
Oh, makes good sense. Thank you for the question. Any other board members have any additional questions for facilities committee? Andrew?
I'm not sure if right now is the appropriate time or if we should do it later in the agenda, but
I try to attend the committee meetings just so I don't have these questions, and I was unable to attend the facilities meeting. I just have questions surrounding the playground equipment, and just wondering, how did we determine that we're going to put playground equipment in at the middle school? Have we surveyed fifth graders? Do we know that, trying to be fiscally responsible? I just want to understand maybe the research that was behind it.
Fair enough. Certainly had a number of presentations. It was brought up to the ad hoc committee that this was a parental concern specific to Great River Middle School. I'll turn that over for some additional comments from Dr. Sample to see how we got where we are this evening.
And it was a concern, and we've got it a little bit further down in our agenda when we get to the Prairie River Middle School playground equipment, specifically for the playground equipment. But the lack of green space has been a concern even for existing 6th, 7th, and 8th graders at the middle school. And so by bringing the 5th grade up, we already knew that our existing elementary playground equipment was either in dire need of repair or replacing. And so we found this as an opportunity to be able to create some green space at the middle school that's been sorely lacking for quite some time. And having the 5th graders there was a great opportunity to be able to do that. There's also an opportunity to potentially repurpose at least half of the playground equipment that is currently at Jefferson, which has our newest, some of our new playground equipment. I know that Dale Bergman would be happy to explain the process as it was presented there as well.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That satisfy your question, or would you like to hear from Dale also?
When we say repurpose, are we going to be using the Jefferson equipment in correlation with the options that were in later in the agenda?
Dale, come up to the specifically talking about try to move ahead on Dale, just what the age and what the process was of looking at maintenance levels of that, really focus on what we were putting in there new, and then giving that to Dale to explain the rest of the process and moving forward with repurposing.
So we looked at the age and condition of the equipment at all the sites, and like Kevin and Linda, a lot of that's getting to its end of life on it, and I think some of that stuff in Jefferson, even the newer stuff, is still 20 years old. So we did not include any of the Jefferson equipment in that option. Probably more specifically because we haven't decided yet what we're going to do with Jefferson. So if you take it back out and have to put something back in, if we do something like 4K or an active room or something that later on, it didn't make much sense to remove it out. So the options that we presented at the facilities committee for the playground equipment is all new equipment.
And I did review those options, so I just wasn't sure where we should actually insert my questions in the meeting, but thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dale. Board member questions for our facilities committee? Hearing none, the next committee is the Curriculum, Technology, Pupil Services Committee. The acronym CTP. They last met on January 13th. Maria Holbay, chair, and other members of the committee are available for questions. Do any board members have questions for our CTP committee this evening? We'll move on to the agenda. With the category unfinished business, we do not have any under that category this evening, so we'll move right into the Board of Education business. First item there is the MAPS Head Start 5-year strategic goal, topic summary sheet provided by Jill Seaman, and a recommended motion from our CTP committee. Do we have a motion this evening? Maria?
To approve the 2021-2022 MAPS Head Start 5-year strategic goals.
second by Ron. Do we have any questions or discussions on this motion and topic this evening? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. Do we have any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously on a voice vote. Next item on our agenda is a Head Start allocation plan with an attached topic summary sheet, also from Joe Seaman, and a recommended motion. Do we have a motion this evening? Ron?
Make a motion to approve the Head Start cost allocation plan.
Motion by Ron. We have a second by Brett. Do we have any questions or discussion on the motion or this topic? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously on a voice vote. Next item on our agenda this evening is the MAPS Head Start self-assessment, an attached topic summary sheet from Joe Seaman, and a recommended motion. Do we have a motion this evening? John?
I recommend a motion to approve the 2021 MAPS Head Start self-assessment.
Motion by John, second by Nubbs. Any questions or discussion on that motion or this topic? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries on a voice vote. Next item on our agenda this evening is the Head Start transportation waiver. Attached topic summary sheet from Joe Seaman and a recommended motion. Do we have a motion this evening? Brett?
Recommend motion to approve the Head Start transportation waiver for 2021-2022.
Motion from Brett. Do we have a second? Second from Ron. Any discussion or questions on this motion or topic this evening? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. Do we have any abstentions? Motion carries on a voice vote. Next item on our agenda this evening is the Families First Coronavirus Response Act and Expanded Family Medical Leave Act, continuance parameters with an attached topic summary sheet from Edward Then, and a recommended motion from our Finance HR Committee. We have a motion this evening. There we go.
Approve the limited continuance of leave provisions under the FFCRA and EFMLA on 30/2021 for all employees who are on these times presented.
By Maria, second by Kendra. Do we have any questions or discussion on this topic or motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Voice vote. Our next item on our agenda this evening is the athletic training service provider proposal, attached topic summary sheet of our activities director, John Miller. I recommend a motion for our finance HR committee. We have a motion this evening. Maria?
Approve Marshall Clinic as the athletic training service provider for Merrill area public schools starting January 1, 2021.
Motion by Maria, second by Brett. Any questions or discussions on this topic or motion this evening? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. Do we have any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously on a voice vote. Next item on our agenda is the preliminary 2021-2022 school calendar with attached topic summary sheet from Dr. John Sample. This was our first preview of the calendar, and I'll turn this topic over to Dr. Sample for a little more information and details. Dr. Sample.
Thanks, Kevin. I did want to bring it to the board for one last look before I ask for or recommend approval in February in case there's anything that any feedback will prove that we may need to revise, because I do not want to bring it back to the board and revise it at a later date. So I want one approval on the calendar. I did spell out some of the features of the calendar. Probably the biggest one is that I built in, we have 2.9 days to spare, and the elementary DPI instructional minutes requirement is much lower than it is for the secondary level. The middle school has a number of minutes built in that they've added over the last 2 years, and so the high school comes in with 2.9 days remaining. Those 2.9 days built in will account for any potential weather-related power outages where we cannot do virtual instruction. Otherwise, if we have an inclement weather day, that day can be used for virtual instruction, since unfortunately, I guess, we've gotten very, very good at meeting the students' needs virtually. And so while it may be, for the most part, the end of snow days, it's not the bitter end, because there will be times where we will have snow days, especially if we don't have power. Also, this schedule includes 8 late start Wednesdays. That's district-wide. The times for our students will not change. They will still be at school, but our teachers can use that for planning time for their professional learning communities, and the students' times will not change. If parents are transporting students to school, they can certainly get them there 2 hours later, but if we have bus riders, they would arrive at the school at the usual time and have activities and those things and be supervised during that time. Any questions at all for any of the features that I outlined, or with the calendar as you see it tonight?
So with the 2.9 days to spare, and we're understanding that COVID is a fluid situation, are we considering, and just in verbalizing this, are we considering any other type of support for the teachers for planning if there is, the virtual, or if we have situations such this year as for our next school year?
Sure, like the teacher planning days are built in for this year due to COVID and virtual?
Correct.
Correct. I did build in a variety of days. Once I built in all of the holidays and our professional development times, which are coordinated after following our benchmark assessments. So that timing is much better than it's ever been. I did take long stretches, and we simply have built in no school days. And so I'm hoping that that would account for it. Now, it's not a day where teachers are still going to come in for any planning, but I'm hoping that by then, in the way the semester is going so far, that we're going to be more face-to-face and probably less blended learning, which has really been taxing our teachers this school year.
Thank you.
Rob? Can you just answer my question? Those days that we looked at this year, some days that we had other options on school. Is that the Wednesdays?
We've got late start Wednesdays for planning purposes and for tightening our student achievement, and so that we're staying ahead of those. We also have MSI days built in to look at the data as soon as we receive it 3 times throughout the year. And so it's a very, very tight calendar when it comes to teacher planning, and actually no school at all for students or teachers. So I'm hoping that that will suffice, and I'm hoping we're in a better place next year.
John.
Just a quick question. I like what you've done here with the testing, having the dates right after that. I think that's a great idea. I like the strategically placement of school days. highlight all of it school year review prior to Memorial Day weekend. One quick question, aligning with other area school districts, who would be aligned with? Was it Wausau? Who else?
Great question. I spoke with Mozani, and he cut my chase down, so it's already did the work for me. We aligned with Mozani. Mozani aligned with Stevens Point, DC Everest, and Wausau, and I believe Tomahawk has the major holidays just as we do as well. So it's mainly the areas, the district south.
Mine is a comment, just a word of encouragement on that late start Wednesday. I think it's a step in the right direction. The more involved you get with school processes and procedures, it is phenomenal. Just mind-boggling that I guess that teachers don't have built-in times to collaborate with other teachers to discuss, student achievement. Just in your own workplaces, imagine being, separated from your colleagues straight through several days. So I think that's a really great step in the right direction for the students, and it makes for even a better work environment for an employee, I imagine. So.
Thank you. And having the opportunity for a K2 building and a 3-4 building, we're really going to be tight on that. We had an all meeting yesterday, and we know the amount of work we have to do, and it is going to require teachers and grade level bands to work together and consistently and often. And so I like that feature of the calendar as well.
Thank you, John. Go ahead, Linda.
Yeah, so have you correlated this with the with St. Francis and the private schools, parochial schools? Are they aligned with this calendar, or are the buses going to have to run differently for them?
Typically, they align with our calendar, and if there's any exceptions, we will still transport. But once this is board approved, and even tonight, I'll say this is our revision so far. And then once it gets board approved, just like teacher planning days, I will let them know that. Sometimes, most of the time, they align with our teacher planning days once the board approves them, and they follow suit. But if they don't, then we'll run buses for them as well. So yes.
So, I mean, not like, yes, I don't want to be like, we're telling them they have to follow this calendar. Like, I mean, are we working with them properly so that we're not making, enemies of the people at parochial schools? I mean, they still live in the same district as we do.
Right. We've got a very good relationship with the parochial.
Thank you. Any board member questions for Dr. Sample? Calendar for next school year. The only other thing that I would add is I did have a little bit of feedback from some educators talking about considering the end of first semester to fall on Thursday, possibly working on either grading or preparing if they are not in a core course that continues their curriculum. Perhaps they're rolling over to a different style of class, so taking that into consideration would be appreciated by a number of educators. I know you have other parameters here, if you can take a look at that to see if that is agreed upon by the classes. So if you look at that, that would be great.
I have those dates, and that was just a matter of arranging, picking a day that for instruction and making a teacher planning day, and then adding one more day at the end of the year. We still have a day before that weekend.
Let's see if that makes sense. Thank you. Any other board member questions for the calendar review? Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Samuel. Next item on our agenda was previewed earlier. The Prairie River Middle School playground equipment with attached topic summary sheet from Dale Bergman and a recommended motion from our facilities committee. We have a motion this evening. Ron?
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of option 2 from the Minnesota, Wisconsin playgrounds.
Motion by Ron. Do we have a second? Second by Norbert House. Any questions or discussion on this motion or this topic? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone Opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries on a voice vote. Next item on our agenda is the Safe Roads to Schools plan with attached topic summary sheet from Dale Bergman and a recommended motion from Facilities Committee. We have a motion this evening. Dobbs?
Recommend the motion to adopt the Safe Routes to Schools resolution as presented.
Motion by Dobbs, a second by Brett. Any discussion or questions on this motion? Andrew, go ahead.
When I was reviewing the documentation, it mentioned that there would be potential finance need from potentially the school district as well as the municipality. So I am curious, how are we working with the city of Merrill to understand the financial impact to us as the school district?
So the resolution doesn't bind us financially to anything. There's a list of recommendations that the North Central Planning Commission had put together through the committee that we met with representatives from the city and from MAPS. And things like, in that grant plan, there's a lot of recommendations and there's some indication of who would be responsible for those if they did those. The majority of the things that the city has are the crosswalks and signage and stuff like that. Things that we would have would be like bike racks and stuff like that, maybe placement of crossing guards in those areas. So we didn't bind to any financial burden to it, but we're agreed with the resolution is to work towards some of these things, and if grant opportunities come up, we'll be guided by Fred Heider from the North Central Planning Commission for those grant opportunities. And the city's in that same conversation with us as well, so we just work with them. We already work with them closely to start planning on parent pickups and trying to make those a little bit smoother with the PD and the street department and everything to help get better turn lanes and signage to keep our kids able to walk safely to school and everything.
I think it's a great program. I think it's a great, because I actually went past the middle school the other day and I was, it's not good. It's definitely congested. So I do think it's a great program. I was just curious about the financial impact. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you very much for your questions.
Thank you, Andrew. Any other discussion or questions on this motion or topic? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously on the voice vote. Our next item on the agenda this evening is additional teacher planning, collaboration, and preparation days. The attached topic summary sheet from Dr. Sample, the recommended motion of our CTP committee. Do we have a motion this evening? Yeah.
Adding of 3 teacher workdays for plan of February 8th, February 22nd, and March 8th to the existing 2020-2021 school calendar.
Motion by Maria, second by Kendra. I'll open the floor to discussion and questions that we at this time. Dr. Sample wanted to add some information on that. So Dr. Sample will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Kevin. Before you vote, I just wanted to make sure that, to be extremely transparent, crystal clear, we do have one small conflict with a half of one of those days. February 22nd, the Kate Goodrich teachers had a conflict with their Reading Horizons pilot training, so that's going to be a half-day training for them on that day. So I didn't want any board members to get approached by anything. Okay, they're going to handle it in-house. Amy Stuttering is going to provide them with planning to make up for that half day. So district-wide, it's 3 planning days with the exception of February 22nd for a half day for Kate Goodrich, and they will, she will make up that time for the Kate Goodrich teachers who are participating in that month.
All right, thank you for the update, Dr. Sample. Any additional questions or discussion on this motion or topic? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda this evening is the open enrollment spaces available at MAPS. For 2011 Wisconsin Act 114 discussion, 2015 Act 55 open enrollment for pupils with disabilities. We have a topic summary sheet from Karen Baker regarding the open enrollment spaces at MAPS and the recommended motion from the CTP committee. We have that motion this evening. Maria?
The classroom capacity for open enrollment purposes and to not deny students with disabilities based on space for the 2021-2022 open enrollment period.
Motion by Maria, we have a second by Ron. Do you have any questions or discussion on this motion or topic this evening? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Voice vote. Next item on our agenda this evening is the Merrill High School course descriptions with the topic summary sheet provided by Principal Shannon Murray and the recommended motion from our CTP committee. We have that motion this evening. Brett?
Recommend a motion to approve the Merrill High School course descriptions for the 2021-2022 school year.
Motion by Brett, we have a second by Nubbs. Any questions or discussion on this particular topic? Motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries on voice vote. Next item on our agenda this evening is the update on the statewide face covering mandate, possible action. We were provided a refresher of Governor Evers' Executive Order 104. We do have a recommended motion. Do we have any motions this evening? John Smith?
I'll recommend a motion to approve the extension of the MAPS requirement that all students and staff wear face coverings per the guidelines established by the Governor's orders through June 30th, 2021.
Second.
Motion by John, second by Jeremy Rutledge. Any discussion or question in regard to this topic or motion? No?
So the question I have is right now, it's in the Senate that they are voting down Governor Evers' extension of the 100-day. Would that change this at all if the Assembly passes it too? I mean, I agree with this. I'm just saying, if the Assembly, it's in the Assembly now, and if they also vote to ban the law, will this change can we make our own regulations against state regulations? You know what I'm saying? What I'm trying to say? The Senate just passed yesterday or today that Governor Evers' 100-day mandate was illegal. You know, they voted it down, and now it's in the Assembly. If it gets voted down in the Assembly, does this change our ruling?
I think the best way to address it is in the spirit of the first motion that we made some time ago was to say, despite whatever comes out of the state, that MAPS will have face masks, wear face masks and required of our district, regardless of what happens in the state. And so we're going to go through June 30th.
And I agree with that. I'm just wondering if that would make a difference.
Okay. It should. That's a great question, because it's happening quickly with changes at the state level.
Thanks, Nubbs. Ron?
Just because the legislature says no, doesn't mean the thing's going to be. We've got to protect our staff and kids.
John?
since I made the motion, I'd like to clarify that the intent of the motion is to have students and staff wear face coverings per the guidelines that are established in the governor's order. And that would be regardless of whether or not the governor's order is upheld by the Senate. So we're just using the governor's order as a reference point so that we don't have to rewrite the guidelines. So these would become maps, orders at the end of the motion is my intent.
Any other question or discussion on this motion or topic? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries on a voice vote. Was the additional recommended motion? All that. John?
I recommend a motion to approve a review of this requirement, statewide face covering mandate at the May regular board meeting.
Motion by John Smith, second by Ron. Any discussion or questions on this motion or topic? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Say nay.
That's like I'm going to abstain.
I didn't catch that, Jeremy. Go ahead if you have
Oh.
something to make.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm going to abstain from voting on this item.
Fair enough. Board member Ratliff abstains.
To clarify, I'm abstaining from voting on the amendment.
Understood, thank you. Motion carries. Noted. Abstention. Next item on our agenda are the technical corrections to policies 5113, 6450, 8141, and 8442. Just a reminder for our bylaw 0131.1, the superintendent is authorized to review and make technical corrections to policies that have already been adopted. Formal rulemaking procedures. This is that opportunity. These 4 policies were reviewed in Finance HR. This is just going for some consistency in some wording and also to reflect the application procedures changing middle schools. I have 9th grade listed in there, one of our policies. That is just technical corrections as noted. Next item on our agenda is the ARC Lincoln County Multi-Reserve Fund donation. We actually had a donation form with information from Julie Weber from ARC Lincoln County and the Multi-Reserve Fund regarding the donation of funds valued at $2,000 for providing our under-school pre-learners children early childhood with a diagnosis of ID and/or used to provide parent education training for parents of children, ED or ID. Based on the fact this donation is greater than our $2,500 limit set in policy 7230, it comes in front of the board for separate approval instead of being listed in consent agenda. You have a recommended motion if someone is willing to make that this evening. Hobbs?
I make a motion to approve the donation of funds from the ARC Lincoln County to Walter Bristol Fund valued at $3,000 for providing Prairie River School for young learning children / early childhood with diagnosis of DD/ID and / or to be used to provide parent education or training for parents of children with DD-ID.
Motion by Hobbs. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Jeremy. Any discussion or questions on this motion or topic? Go ahead, Maria.
Just want to make a comment
second that.
Thank you, Maria. Follow up from Jeremy. Any additional questions or discussion on this motion or topic? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously on a voice vote. Next item on our agenda is the building configuration timeline update with the topic summary sheet from Dr. Sample, which is informational only. At this time, I will turn the floor over to Dr. Sample for an update, please.
I provided the updates bolded on the topic summary sheet. Currently, right now, Glenda and Eddie are working very hard with the elementary principals as well, working very hard to develop the staffing plan for next year. The missing piece on that is of course, it has to happen with, once we figure our building principals, then we'll figure our staffing, and even then, any final notices of non-renewal for teachers do not happen until May. But the staffing plan is very close as it can be at this time. Also working with Dale to develop some staggering starting and ending times for the existing buildings, for the buildings for next year. Minutes of instruction will still stay the same, but we need to stagger in order to create efficiencies with our own transportation routes, and also not to burden our parents who may have a child at K2, the K2 building, the 3-4 building, and the middle school, and maybe perhaps a high school. And so we want to be very sensitive to their needs as well. And at this time, we are on track or ahead of schedule for administrative decisions for buildings. And then also, Linda, to maybe answer your question regarding the timing, we laid out the board meetings and the committee meetings and all of those dates for the year. And that's kind of how we build our schedule according to when those days, when those committee meetings and the board meetings happen. And so by design, I think the very first conversation for repurposing Jefferson for next year was deciding, are we going to repurpose it, or are we going to potentially get rid of the building or sell it or auction or whatever. And so we've done that part. Despite rumors, the conversations still continue as to what we're going to utilize that building for and repurpose it for. And so that decision has not been made. That's still brainstorming, because at the next facilities meeting, we've got a lot of discussion for what we're going to do, and that is, especially even in May, to review the moving plan and start finalizing the moves. And so it starts with building administration, and then it goes to building staff, and then to figure out classrooms even, and what those classrooms are going to need, and those things. So I think the biggest thing that we established with the repurposing of Jefferson so far is that we will repurpose it for what we don't know, but that brainstorming will continue.
Follow-up questions or discussions?
You mentioned rumors, which quite a bit of the stuff that's been out in the public have actually been what we've already talked about. You know, either repurposing Jefferson as an administrative building, the NAC building, MATA. So that is out there, and that's what people are talking about. But, you know, like we heard earlier from Christine, that I think we need to do a little bit better, more, you know, public relations. I think myself, and I'm going to say I failed probably at that. And, you know, I think we really, really need to get the public on board with this. We really need to get the word out better. And, you know, some people, like Christine said earlier, they're not tech savvy. They're not on their tablets. They're not on our district website. And maybe some don't even listen to the radio station. Some do read the newspaper. But, you know, we really, really need to get the public on board with this. Whether they have kids in the district or not, they are our taxpayers. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Any follow-up on that, Dr. Sample, before I ask for other questions from other board members?
In a recent with the communication plan too, the superintendent's corner, we did send it through our school messenger with every parent in Skyward. So we sent all the building principals sent the link saying, here's the superintendent's corner, as it will appear in the paper and as it will appear online. And so we sent that via email, a link for them. They will have to click on it and read it. And then, of course, we've got a spot for Blue Jay Radio every Thursday morning in which we provide as many updates as we possibly can in that span of time. So, yeah, we're doing exactly what we can through communication. And unfortunately, some things just can't be revealed per statute until decisions are made. So, as long as my wish is for everybody to understand that. And that with repurposing in Jefferson, that no additional dollars are going to be spent. There's no referendum dollars. The only way we could repurpose Jefferson is, let's say, if it was a program moving over there, any of the enhancements to the building that program is in right now, for roof or walls or anything that needs to be kept up, that can now be applied to the Jefferson building. So there's no new monies, there's no going to referendum saying we're going to repurpose this building and put a bunch of money into it. In fact, it's just the opposite. The reason we are reconsolidating our district is because of money, because of declining enrollment. $787,000 is a lot to cut from a budget to balance next year's budget. And those cuts are difficult. And so that's exactly the reason why we're doing all of that. So, thank you.
I just want to reference that the superintendent's corner has communicated just about an entire summary of all the things that have taken place over the last several months, outlining the dates that many of these started. Many of these discussions started as early as November of 2019, and I specifically recall placing many of those things on the record so that the community was informed and engaged along the way, because at no point did we ever want anything to be transparent. We function inside of committee meetings, and these committee meetings talk openly and publicly about every last detail of everything we want to do, up into including what we might do with the Jefferson building. And we need to be able to brainstorm and have those discussions openly, because that's how we end up having solutions to problems. The problem is we can't talk about things in finality until we vote on them. That's the function of this board. So the minute we vote on them, they become an actual decision. Up until that point, it's a discussion. So I think some of the frustration I feel for myself as a board member is we're not trying to, nor ever we have hid information from the public. It's been out there. It's available. We're asking and begging people to participate. But if the only time you participate is when we are at the point of decision, it will look like we made it in a vacuum. We don't. We attend meetings, hours and hours of meetings every month on a public record in an open format. And then we meet here once a month to ratify those decisions, and at that point we can talk about it. I just can't accept the fact we haven't communicated, because I have set out purposely in this position, in this seat, to communicate openly and publicly on the record in the format which we are called to do, which is committee and board activity. Look up the minutes. You can watch them on video. It's all there for people to witness. But please, if you want information, come to these meetings. Stay off of Facebook. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any other discussion or questions for Dr. Sample on this topic? I see Ron's hand up. Go ahead, Ron.
Just want to make the Johnson at the end of this meeting, can we bring the president and all the list of all the next minute of meetings for February? And we want to know where they're at, what time they're at, and they are open to the public. So please come to these meetings.
Thank you, Ron. Any additional question or discussion on this topic? Jeremy?
I just like to echo Mr. Smith's statements. I've been on the board 6 years. This is my final term. And during the middle of 6 years, both current board members and previous board members have made consistently known during board meetings when the public comes to address us, we express that appreciation for that. Me personally, and I think I'm seeing Mr. Smith, I look at it where I can't make a decision with the overall interest of the district and staff, parents in mind, unless I hear from the parents, unless I hear from the stakeholders. It's one thing to get phone calls, which I appreciate. It's one thing to get emails after the fact. But if we don't have people coming in to the boardroom, our meetings such as we have tonight, to address us directly, give us direction, give us guidance, how can we, I mean, we're not naive, we're only human. If we don't hear feedback, all we can go by is our personal sentiments, what we feel personally is best for the district overall. And secondly, in terms of being transparent and providing public information to the public, as a former member of local media, I personally can applaud this district staff and Superintendent Sample for being out there in time manner. The current, I would say, the current unrest on social media lately is regarding information that Mr. Sample released back last fall. I personally remember getting that memo, the Superintendent's Corner, for example, and publishing it. And that was at least September or October. And for some reason now, folks are upset about it. And people make accusations that we're not being transparent as a district, we're hiding information, we're doing this, behind closed doors, quote unquote. That's just not the case. Information's been out there, folks. It's not our responsibility as board members or as a district to provide each and every person, each and every staff member, each and every parent, one-on-one information. The information being made public. It's being made publicized on the board website, the district website, and in local newspaper. What more can we honestly be expected to do? And last but not least, I honestly feel that moving forward, if, like John said, and that's not to be redundant, but if folks want to be informed, if they truly care, like some folks claim to care on social media, then attend the board meetings. Come to us. Give us your feedback. Let us hear you. If you don't speak up, folks, all we can do is act on what we think is best on our personal level. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Any other discussion or questions on this topic? Right, the only thing that I will add is certainly, as other board members have said, it is important to communicate and to remain transparent. We will continue to strive for that as a board. As others have asked, please meet us halfway. It is open meetings to attend. If you do have suggestions on methods of communication, feel free to reach out to myself or Dr. Sample or Tammy, and we will discuss that at the committee level and see what we can do to improve any processes such as the conveying of the superintendent's corner to more people. So thank you for that feedback, everyone, for understanding the situation. Any other comments on that? Andrew?
I just want to say thank you for emailing that out to the principals, the superintendent's corner. I actually received some positive feedback in regards to that. People that, unfortunately, not everyone uses the same form of communication. So I did receive positive feedback and some just additional conversations. So thank you for doing that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, communication is one of those parents. And I've seen your newspaper. I'm just thinking, how can you reach the older community, the older generation? That's where I seem to be getting some of my concerns from. I live out in the Turnipine River, and quite a few of my neighbors are probably in their 70s and 80s, and I don't know, like we're not reaching them. And that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say that you haven't put it out there, because you have. It's just how do we reach the older generation better? Because I think that's where we're have a disconnect.
Seeing no other hands raised, we'll move on to our next topic. For the update, Dr. Sample, comments from board members, and updates and discussions there. Before I ask someone for the motion for the consent agenda, I'll make sure that no one wants to pull anything from tonight's consent agenda. Seeing no hands raised, anything or have it removed, we have a motion then. Appreciate that. Maria?
Move to approve consent agenda items A through E, which includes the second readings of the and approval of policies 3430.01, 4430.01, family and medical leave of absence and remote, policy 5112, entrance age, and policy 6325, procurement, federal grants funds, minutes of the December 16, 2020 meeting, claims, vouchers, and receipts totaling $3,602,128.60. The personnel report is presented, and donations totaling $10,258.12.
Kendra? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously on a voice vote. Just as a reminder, items for future meetings, as is normal practice, we go through our committee, our board committees when at all possible. So please contact your committee chairs if you want a topic on the agendas for the committees. Otherwise, if there's something you want brought in front of the full board, continue to, for policy, bring that to my attention and Dr. Samples, and we will put that on a future agenda item. Just a reminder that tomorrow morning we do have, as Dr. Sample mentioned earlier, the radio program scheduled, which is Thursday, January 28th. Runs at about 8:15 in the morning on Blue Jay 730 radio. Future meetings, Finance HR Committee meeting will next be held on Wednesday, February 3rd, beginning at 4:30 p.m. in the boardroom. Maple Grove Governance Board meeting will next be on Monday, February 8th at 6 p.m. at Maple Grove Charter School. Head Start Policy Council meets on Tuesday, February 9th at 5:30 p.m. virtually. Our CTP, or Curriculum Technology Pupil Services Committee, their next meeting will be Wednesday, February 10th at 4:30 p.m. in the boardroom. And our next regular board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, February 17th at 5:30 p.m. here at the high school auditorium and virtually. This time we have a contemplated motion to adjourn into executive closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes under sections 19.85, paren 1, paren C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, paren E, deliberating or negotiation of purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Paren F, considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration, specific personal problem, or the investigation of charges against specific persons, except where paren B applies, which if discussed in public would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect on the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data, or involved in such problems or investigations. Paren G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation which is likely to become involved, and 118.125 for the purpose of considering early college credit and start now applications that may involve discussions of confidential student records, and to discuss other matters involving student records and personal history or histories that, if discussed in public, would
likely have a substantial adverse effect on the reputations of the persons discussed. The purpose of the closed session is to consider negotiation strategies, options available to the board as it considers the owner petitions for detachment related to property in the town of Hamburg, the Maple Grove School, or Merrill Area Public School District to the Athens School District, and to confer with legal counsel who is rendering legal advice regarding the potential or likelihood of litigation associated with doing so, and take possible action related to the same. Also to discuss a support staff member's request for a temporary leave of absence and consideration of possible action regarding applications for participation in early college credit and start college now programs. We're also going to discuss the approval of the employment contracts of administrators who have accepted the material changes to the contract, potential discussion of preliminary consideration of non-renewal of employment contracts of administrators who have not accepted the material changes to the contract for the purpose of formally issuing the contracts with the material changes to the administrators, review a prior approval of vacation allowance related to an individual administrator contract, and discuss revisions to the superintendent's contract to the upcoming contract cycle. We have that motion. Motion by Maria, second by Brett. This time, could we have a roll call on that, please, Tammy?
Lindsay Mainline. Aye. Doug Dashback.
Aye.
Don Liberty. Aye. Kendra Austin. Aye. Jerry Rattler.
Aye.
John Smith.
Aye.
Maria Volkey. Brett Hall.
Aye.
Kevin Blake.
Aye. We will go into a secure location for closed session, and we may reconvene into open session and act upon any closed session items if applicable and necessary. Thank you all for your attendance this evening.